The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the complete. That is crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
For the first time since Season 3, the classes have changed in the AMGSC. With the arrival of GTE cars to iRacing, the much-loved GT1 class makes way for GTLM. Instead of the bow tie and wings duking it out, it's now down to the blue oval and the prancing horse to decide which banner flies highest. With those changes, new competitors, and many drivers switching classes, will we see a change at the top of the point sheets? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 1 of Season 6 and the Autobahn Motorcar Group's Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the prototype and GTLM classes is Bill Soup Zahn. Keeping us up with the GTD class is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, Amjad Dr. Ramjet Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, despite the changes elsewhere, one thing seems to stay the same. We kick things off at the famous Daytona road course.
Yeah, there's really no other place you can kick off a sports car season such as this. However, the race will only be 90 minutes today. I know back in February there's a lot of 2.4-hour races going on here. So 90 minutes, I wouldn't exactly call that a sprint, but we'll see if the shorter length does affect today's race. Of course, it is the traditional Daytona International Speedway road course layout. They go through the tri-oval at the start of the oval section, and then they go into that little infield portion there with the horseshoes, back out onto the track, and then back out onto the oval track, and then on the back straight there they have that little inner loop that they have to navigate, which leads them back around to the finish. It's 3.56 miles, that's 5.729 kilometers in total, 12 turns, and as I mentioned they'll be racing for 90 minutes here tonight. Let's give you an idea of what this track is like with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we've got Kevin Brown behind the wheel of the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around Daytona. You brake for turn 1 immediately after the start-finish. It's a curved braking zone, transitions from banking to flat, and you're coming from the fastest part of the track to one of the slowest. How's that for a route introduction? Slip through this chicane flat out, and then stay left to brake for the International Horseshoe. This is a potential passing zone, so be aware of your mirrors. You'll have a paved access road to the left, so you can use every bit of track to carry more speed off that exit. As we transition back right, the kink is going to be a flat-out blast, but you gotta get back to the left side very quickly and get set up for the Western Horseshoe. This is a really tricky apex to hit, and it's not uncommon to see cars slip wide. Now we get ready for 6, one of the most important corners on the track. This will dump you back onto the oval, so making sure your car is planted at the exit is going to determine how soon you can get on the loud pedal and carry your speed all the way around NASCAR 1 and 2. The good thing is, the steep Daytona banking means speeds are high, and picking up a draft is pretty easy. Stay within range, and you can ride the coattails of a faster car. If you've got the speed to clear the car ahead, do it. Otherwise, be wary of trying to outbrake them, because now you're going to spot your brake marker for the bus stop. It's very, very easy to blow any of these 4 apexes and get a cut course penalty. If you did it right, you're on the power before you've hit the 3rd apex. And it's going to be even more important than turn 6 that you get this right. Like I said at the start of the lap, this will lead you to the fastest part of the circuit. But like most rovals, you can expect a drafting game to play out, and cars are likely to attempt the last lap snipe. Your best hope is to push hard and break the draft before then. If you can, you really want to be the 2nd car in line coming out of the bus stop. But that's a lap around Daytona. Now, naturally, with it being the first round, we don't have any points on the board to go over. However, in case you missed last season, Bill has the update on what Season 5 wound up looking like.
Yeah, what we'll do is to show you how things finished up for Season 5, but more importantly, what it means for Season 6. Now, Robert Tinsey wins another crown, and Jason Girard nips John Ulmer for 2nd in the season finale. But here's the news. Girard is moving to the GTD class, which is good news for guys like Alex Simonik and Daniel Gralti. Now, both Simonik and Gralti really were starting to pick up their game at the end of the season. They're getting faster. But David Williams has announced his intention to race in the prototype. Not sure how often. I don't think he's shown up tonight. But he's certainly going to be somebody to keep an eye on. And Season 5 GT3 winner Laura Costa is going to try his hand at some open cockpit racing. So that's going to be fun to look at. Costa's here right now. His qualifying's a little bit farther down. We'll see how he fares in the high-powered cars. Let's go over to the GT1s. Now, like Joe was talking in the opening, the GT1 class is giving way to the GT Le Mans class, populated by 2 cars, the Ferrari 488 GTE and the Ford GTE. Last season, though, the GT1s, it was all Stephen McGarvey who stole the championship away from Wojciech Swiatowicz at the Le Mans finale. McGarvey is back in the Ford, but Swirly is not returning for Season 6, which is personally a little bit disappointing for me because this commentator invested a lot of time learning how to pronounce his last name. Billy Smith, Brandon Postman, and Ryan Huff are all returning, but there's more news. 3 names to keep in mind. Look out for these guys. Paul Oh My Darling, who, when he has time to practice, is a threat to win any race. Hotshot phenom Jeffrey the Monster Ooms is back. His recent GSRC success is making Ooms a household name. And finally, the Pac-Man, John Paquin. Now, John's talent may only be exceeded by his intolerance for foolish driving from his competitors. So, if Pac-Man launches a serious campaign from opening round to finale, he's going to be tough to beat. And finally, to the GT3s. Now, we told you that Costa is going up to the prototypes, which leaves the path to the crown a little less crowded for Bradley Haley. Sheldon Rosenblum had a great Season 5. Not sure if he has the speed to win the crown, but stranger things have happened. Dave Hill, Robert Jackman are back. The names you don't see on there is Ben Hackison. He had a couple wins in Season 5, and like the Pac-Man and the GTLM, if he can show up enough, he's a championship threat. But don't forget about Jason Girard, who we talked about moving down from the prototypes, and he's joined by Dino Topic coming down to race in the GTDs as well. In the team championship, I got a hunch the Talon is going to be the team to beat. We'll look more about the team championship next week when we have a little bit more idea of how the silly season has played out and who's racing for who. But that should do it. What I want to keep in mind, though, in all the classes, there's several rookies, and who knows if there's another Wojciech Swiatowicz who's going to show up and surprise us all.
Yeah, I have to say I'm very excited to see what things wind up looking like here after this race, because things have changed so much. There's a lot of question marks about who are going to be the major players this time around. Now, unfortunately, we do have some sad news of recent time here in the iRacing community, and that is that Andy Morgan, who was a very beloved member of the iRacing community, has passed away. He died on September 19th of this year. He was only 62 years old, and there are many that have mourned his loss and are trying to carry on the torch of the spirit that he had. There have been stories shared all over the forums, of course, about the good races that people have had, the spirit that he brought to his racing, the warm friendliness that he gave to everyone that he wound up racing with. I haven't heard a single ill word spoken of Andy since his passing, and we wish his friends and his family the best as they deal with his loss. But we have 6 minutes left to go here on the clock in the last chance qualifying, and there's a lot to talk about with this first round coming up. So many new things to worry about. Let's start off with Sam in that GTD class. Now, it has been renamed, but it's still the same GT3 cars. The big difference now, Sam, is they have a couple different cars this season.
Yeah, the BMW is no more. We have the Audi there. I think has kind of taken the BMW's place. However, only one driver has jumped into that car. Brian Bennett will be the sole Audi out there on course. We also have the Ferrari GT3, which is new to iRacing. We had the Ferrari GTE came to the service about 13 weeks ago, but now we also have a GT3 car. And then, of course, we have a Mercedes. Now, as a result of all of that, we see that the Mercedes has been at the top of the GTD practice and qualifying scoreboards, but not by much. And I was talking to Dino Topic, one of the GTD drivers, earlier on, and asking him his opinion on that. And he basically said, I think it's because these Mercedes drivers have more experience. It's not a new car for them, and that makes total sense. You know, they're going to be out there in the car that they're familiar with. There's nothing for them to learn, and maybe they will be able to get their seasons off to a better start than the drivers in the Ferraris and the Audi here tonight. But boy, Joe, with such a crowded field we've got out there today, anything can happen. 51 cars.
A lot of traffic to deal with. Now, thankfully, the long, high banking of Daytona will offer plenty of opportunities to try and get by the slower classes or let those faster classes through. Meanwhile, over in the GTLM, it was mentioned that we were switching around the two new cars over there. Bill, one thing that struck me as it led up to this season is even though there was some rivalry between the Aston Martins and the Corvettes, I wouldn't call it fervent per se. And the Fords and the Ferraris have really brought out the fans of each side.
Yeah, and I'm surprised our defending champion, Stephen McGarvey, has decided to race in the American car. Now, the guys who are in the Ferrari, Packman, Ohms, Smith, and Peterson, those are the top four qualifiers right now. I'm a little worried that the Ford might be a tougher car to win with. We'll see. Stephen must know. I'm not sure why he chose that car, but he must feel comfortable in it. It's going to be fun to see. I thought that the battle in the old GT1s was pretty good. It was a pretty even battle between those two cars. We'll see how the Fords and the Ferraris play out.
Of course, there could be balance of performance changes throughout the season that iRacing may implement as they get certain builds or they realize ways in which they can even up the cars, and that may change things. We'll have to wait and see. We got a while probably until the next time iRacing elects to do that, having recently just done a patch and try to even up. At least I know the GT3 Ferrari. I'm not sure if they had done anything to the GTE Ferrari to size it up with the Ford as we watch Paul Darling there working in that new second class. 3 minutes left to go on the clock. If you're wondering what we mean by this last chance qualifying, well, they split up the qualifying into the Autobahn series. Each class gets the track to themselves for 15 minutes. The prototypes, the GTLM, and the GTDs. The last chance qualifying, which is what's happening now for 15 more minutes, is drivers who are not able to make it in time for their allotted time. Some of them have real-world obligations that mean they can't get here until late. Now, that said, they cannot take to the track during this qualifying unless they do not touch the track at all in their typical qualifying and their allotted class qualifying. They don't want anybody to try and game the system by getting more qualifying time than others. So we watch David Tejada work his way around. The downside to waiting till this one, of course, is that it is mixed class qualifying, which means it's a lot easier to get caught up in traffic and have a lap ruined. Now, usually we talk about picks, but before we get to that, I kind of want to get a feel for you guys' thoughts for this upcoming season. Sam, the change in cars, a few new players in the GTDs, and a few losses of drivers leaving. What are you expecting? Do you think it's going to be a tight fight? Do you think someone's going to be able to run away with it? What's your predictions?
Well, I recall Bradley Haley obviously being a very strong competitor last season and currently is qualified on provisional pole in the GTD class, and with time running out it looks like that's where he'll remain. So I have a feeling if Haley can get the win today or get a podium finish, that's really going to bode well for his championship chances, at least early on in the season. However, as you mentioned, late on in the season, it's anybody's guess because we do have so many new names to this division, so many new cars, and maybe even more new names to come. But right now, I wouldn't be surprised to see Haley get a leg up on the competition in the opening few races, but it will be interesting to see what things look like in a few weeks' time.
For me, it's the depth of talent. It seems like the talent is just so strong here. I was worried about the prototypes when they lost Girard, but look what they got up there. I think Gralty's going to be really fast, and a couple new names up there. I see Mike Young and Scott Corbin. They're sitting 4th and 5th in qualifying right now. It's anybody's guess who wins these crowns.
Now, though Gralty has qualified in 3rd, what I find interesting is he is half a second off of John Ulmer. So I'm wondering if it's going to be more of the same old in those prototypes, as Tinsley and Ulmer have really been duking it out for the last few seasons for most of the wins, sometimes interspersed by Girard, who, of course, as we said, will not be a part of those prototypes this season. And the GTLM, I really honestly think we cannot count out John Paquin. Jeffrey Ooms has been on a tear. He's been performing excellently in all different cars we've seen here on the Global Sim Racing channel, but John Paquin, every time he's shown up on our channel, has been nearly unstoppable. So I would not put it past him to maybe run away with this thing in that middle class. With that said, qualifying is now wrapping up, and since we have a short pace lap around here, why don't we go to the grid and tell you how the order is going to be standing. Robert Tinsley is going to be sitting on the pole with John Ulmer starting on his outside. Let's see if they pick up where they left off. Daniel Gralty will be starting in 3rd, as was mentioned. He showed good pace at the end of last season. Mike Young will round out row 2 just beside him. Scott Corbin will be starting in 5th with Alex Simonik in 6th. Then you've got Mark Schindel starting 7th, and the outside of row 4 will be Carter Kundinger. Start of row 9, Armando Edwards will be there. Lionel Duprat will be 10th with Mark Wilson starting 11th. Then P12, Lauro Costa. A little bit of concern there that he's not qualified higher, starting in that 12th position. John O'Day will be 13th, with Steve P. Jones being the last of the prototypes to get a lap in here at the start. Bill?
First 6 names all have huge reputations for me. John Paquin, Jeffrey Ooms, Billy Smith II, Leif Peterson, Stephen McGarvey, and Paul Darling. My gosh, that's some heavy talent. After them, it's Ryan Bird and Dave Hill. Paul Slavonic is back. Jimbo Pfeiffer, there's a veteran back again. Robert Jackman and Marty Jeffries next to them, followed by Miguel Meyer. And then John King is in this class, but he didn't qualify ahead of Sam's pole sitter, so King's going to have to start from the pit. Sam?
You'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, sure enough, Bradley Haley won GTD qualifying, and he won it by a mere 0.2 of a second over Jason Girard. A new name here lined up in 3rd, Dennis Savratic, and he'll be ahead of Benjamin Hackerson. We know he has a lot of pace. Kevin Santana and Sheldon Rosenbaum will start behind, ahead of Brandon Guaracia and Ross Booth, and then we get to the lone Audi in the field, Brian Burnett. Now you also see some other names from other classes mixed in here, like Dale Green, he's in GTLM. Then we get back to the GTDs of Scott McGarvey, Paul Lindsay, Sean Reese, and now we're getting into the Ferrari field. Paul Lindsay was the first Ferrari. We also have Jim McInnes, Dino Topic, Tim McLeish, and David Tejeda are all in Ferraris. Then we get to the Mercedes of Matt Owens, 3 more Ferraris, Rob Sklenka, Christopher Sherburn, Jeff Hopper, and then rounding out the field will be the Mercedes of Sheldon Woloshin, who was actually off a few seconds in qualifying. You see Chris Pence's name there in HPD, however, he did not set a lap in qualifying and he is not in the session.
We should mention that the drivers who either failed to put a lap in or that finished or qualified, lower than the class slower than them will start from pit lane. That is standard starting procedure here in the Autobahn series to make sure they can get out ahead of the slower classes. Sometimes it doesn't always work out like that, but typically they get enough of a buffer that they can sneak out of the pits just ahead of the ones behind. As we see them start to grid up on the backstretch, they will work their way through the bus stop around NASCAR 3 and 4. Then we go racing for 90 minutes for round 1 of Season 6 here in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Time for that typical question I always like to ask. Let's go to Bill first. Who's your pick today?
It'll be boring on both. Tinsey has this one locked up to start with, and Paquin, since he's here, he'll start off with a win.
Sam?
Well, usually Daytona produces surprises, and it wouldn't be a surprise to see Hackerson win, but since he qualified 4th and I know he's got a lot of pace, I'm going to go with Hackerson.
Keep an eye, though, on Laura Costa. Joe talked about him in 12th. Qualifying's not really his forte. He likes to get the feel of the race, go along. Pit strategy is his strength. We'll see how good it is in these higher-powered HPDs.
Certainly not his forte, but he's a lot farther back than we're used to.
Yeah.
In the GT3s last season, he was at least mid-pack. This time he is smack at the back of those HPDs. Let's see how he can do trying to crawl his way through the field. 51 cars on the grid today, I believe, if Chris Pence is going to be gridding up.
He did join the session the instant after I said he was not in the session.
All right, so a full field out there for the start. And as was mentioned, that could make it a little bit chaotic. A few new drivers maybe that everybody needs to get used to their habits and how they race out on track. So we watch that roof pace car take off. They do have one fast repair in this series, so if they do come across significant amount of damage, they can take that in the pits and get a fresh car, come back out. That has paid dividends for some drivers before. Robert Tinsey has used that to impressive effect.
Yeah, and it's a two-stop strategy, though, for these drivers, Joe, which I suppose, if you do have to make an extra stop to get repairs, making 3 stops as opposed to 2 doesn't hurt you as much as in a shorter race where you're taking 2 stops as opposed to 1. It will definitely be eventful with such a large field out here.
Might be a 3-stopper for the prototypes. Might be 2 and a splash and go. We'll see how that plays out.
Very thirsty track with that high banking, making it flat out for a huge portion of this lap. You can see they split the classes up. It will be a split start as the pace car waits to peel in. Now he's into the pit lane. Tinsey holds them back. Now he gets going. Great jump over Ulmer. In fact, both of them got a good jump over second and third, who might be going 3 wide because just behind them, that looks like Alex Simonik trying to stick his nose in, gets 1 position off of Mike Young, but it looks very clean through that first corner for the prototypes. Let's go to GTLM.
GTLMs are taking their time to get to the starting grid. They haven't got there yet. Waiting for John Paquin to get him going. They have only supposed to leave a few seconds. Now Paquin gets the jump. He's going to get the lead, tucking back in behind him as Ooms. Peterson drops into 3rd. They're going to fall right in order, making a challenge for 5th. Getting up in there, that is McGarvey trying to make that Ford work as they go side by side. Sam?
Well, just like in GTOM, the GTD field leaving a large gap in front of him. Bradley Haley working his way by pit road, but for those about to race, we salute you, because Haley is on the loud pedal and pulling away, and Jason Gerard goes straight into 2nd place. They're single file about the first 6 cars deep, and all of these Mercedes at the front of the GTD field begin to work their way through the infield here at the Daytona International Speedway.
Bit of a cheeky move by Dino Topic, gained about 2 spots, breaking late deep down the inside of turn 1, and gets himself a little bit farther up the mid-pack of that large GTD field. Meanwhile, let's jump back up to the prototypes where Ulmer and Tinsey are stretching away, and Ulmer is using the draft to great effect to try to take the lead away on this first lap by. As they come across the line, lap 1 is going to be led by Ulmer, but he's on the outside into the braking.
And as you say that, Joe, they get that sorted out. The same thing happened back behind between Simonik and Gralti. Simonik able to hang on to 3rd spot. Gralti tried to make the move on the top side. Didn't quite work.
Simonic's really been the best of the rest in this series. Towards the end of the last season, we got a spin behind him as Mike Young loses it into the International Horseshoe. He's going to be able to return without hitting anything, but that privateer driver, as we watch him lose that rear end, has not gotten off to the start that he probably wanted.
Man, what a tough battle we saw going on for the lead down screen with the HPD leaders, even though it's only lap 2. Now, of course, the significant thing about the GTD and the GTLM drivers leading such a gap is our overall leaders are going to start lapping these GTD cars very soon as they're working their way up onto the banking on their lap number 2. The GTD leaders are only just coming out of NASCAR 4 to complete their first lap.
Yeah, Sam, I read the rules. Supposed to be a 10-second gap between classes. Man, it felt like almost 25.
Now, there was a problem with John Ulmer somewhere. Oh, he had contact with Tinsley. He had somehow gotten past him in the infield, and then he spun going into the Western Horseshoe on this lap, got tipped just barely by Tinsley, and now he's fallen back with damage. So Ulmer already falling victim this season. We're going to see if we can find a replay of the incident. Here we go. Down into that Western Horseshoe. That's Ulmer on the outside in the green machine. We're going to watch it one more time from Tinsley's view. He got squeezed hard.
And Ulmer's really slow. You got to wonder if Tinsley got away with it. Now, there is a fast repair, so what Big Cheese is going to want to do, and I'm talking about John Ulmer, they want to lift that car around till the pit window opens up. Which, honestly, if it's a 3-stopper for the prototypes, that could be pretty quick.
That's if he's trying for the 3-stopper, though. He may want to try and stretch it out. He has fallen back to Simonik and Gralti, but they have not been able to overtake him yet. There we see Simonik still holding down third.
The top 2 GTD Mercedes running nose to tail as they come out in NASCAR 4. Jason Gerardo not going to make a move. I think we've seen him do this before when he raced in prototypes. Sometimes if he doesn't feel the battle's worth it, he'll just hang back and save a bit of fuel, save his equipment.
Gerard known for his calculating drives. I wonder if he's bringing that approach down to the GTDs as he continues to stalk Bradley Haley. Haley might be wondering, how can I get a hold of the fastest car in this class? Ooh, as he slides through the International Horseshoe, Sam.
Yeah, Gerard really had to back out there, otherwise he would have got into the rear fender. That wouldn't have been good news for either of them.
But Haley was the fastest except for Costa, who continued to flummox him with better strategy all season long. And now he's got to deal with Gerard, who's already looking to the outside as they come up to turn 6. He backs out of it.
And something that's going to shake all these guys up soon. Robert Tinsley has caught P51 Jeff Hooper riding around at the back of the GTD field. The lapping has begun.
Wonder if we should get an onboard from Tinsley here as he tries to scythe his way through. We'll check in on the GTLMs momentarily. We haven't really given them a whole lot of love yet, but not a lot of action thus far.
Well, Jimbo Pfeiffer's in the pits, and what's that all about?
Let's go to the GTLMs right now. A pass for the lead. That's the car on the top side. That's Paquin in the blue car. Underneath is Ooms. Now, Ooms, if he can hang in here long enough, he'll be in the preferred position as they get to the last hairpin here. Nope.
So, give the lead now to John Paquin. Ooms gave it his best, but I can answer that question about Jimbo Pfeiffer. He mentioned over the radio that he had had a slowdown penalty. I'm going to take an educated guess that he was not able to serve that in time as things get very close between Ooms and Paquin, and the Canadian has to back off a bit.
They've opened up. Billy Smith has been doing his best, and we ride on board with Ooms right now. I thought Paquin was going to run away with it, but Ooms did a great job of running him down. And, of course, the layout here at Daytona really helps a driver close in. That the draft is really helpful as they work their way through the bus stop.
Boy, our HPD leaders have their work cut out for them right now. They have caught the tail end of the GTD field, as we mentioned, and things are getting ugly as they navigate their way through the infield right now. Cars to the left, cars to the right. Robert Sklenka being passed by 3 prototypes in one corner. These drivers really having to watch their mirrors early on.
A traffic jam mid-pack with these prototypes streaming through as we go back to GTLM. The lead once again trying to change hands, but once again Jeffrey Ooms is denied by Paquin.
Paquin takes the defensive line into one, making Ooms go on the top side, and he's going to have to wait. I don't think he's going to get him anywhere through here, so we'll have to wait again, take another shot at him, back out on the bank section.
Looking out from the diffuser of John. I get the sense this is going to be a titanic battle this season between these two if this race is anything to go by. Still a lot left to go, an hour and 22 on the ticker.
And change for the lead in GTD. Haley's just going to give it to Gerard, and he actually gave him quite a lot of room to pull in front as they went into the braking zone for turn 1. Now, at first I wondered if they were just swapping positions, but I really don't think Haley did the best in here by giving Gerard that much room ahead of him. Gerard can try and use this infield portion, try and break away.
So far, he's managed to put about 7/10 over Haley, a little bit of a breakaway, but once they hit that banking, unless he gets more than this, I think we're going to see Bradley close back in on him.
Yeah, well, Robert Tinsley could defect this. Meanwhile, Brian Burnett, the only Audi I'm being told is off course. And the scary thing about that is EV joins as he has a lot of HPD traffic going by him. That will cost Burnett a few positions. I think he had been running in 9th. Now he's showing in 10th.
Oh, and contact somewhere in the prototypes. I'm not sure who this happened between. There's whoever was going by Bennett. Trying to see if we can dig that up. We'll get back to that later.
They got away with it.
Yeah, it seems like for now at least. However, our GT leaders are now being caught by Ulmer.
Yeah, it's really been like Christmas back here at the back of the GTD class with all the blinking lights from the prototypes. It's ridiculous back there. Yeah. Kind of loses its effectiveness when everyone's blinking at you.
I think by this point everybody's aware that there are cars coming through as we watch second plates. Ulmer try his best to try and chase down Tinsley, but let's go to 7th where Costa and Kundinger are side by side with a car up on the high side who gives way. It allows Costa to stay ahead. Oh, and the car behind almost gets into Ross Booth, who was the car that gave way. That was Lionel Duprat, who nearly gave a side swipe to the GTD.
Duprat running back there in 9th, behind Kundinger. Kundinger, another driver moving up into the prototypes. He showed some speed last season. We'll see what he does up here in the big cars. Rosenbaum giving room as Kundinger goes around.
Through all this traffic, Kevin Santana has worked himself up into 3rd in the GTD class. He started back in 5th place. He's been able to work his way by the newbie, Dennis Safratic, and also Benjamin Hackerson, who was my pick to win this race. So, Kevin Santana on the charge early.
We saw flashes of this from Santana last season as he swapped back and forth between the prototypes and I believe it was the GT3s. Showed himself to have pace in the slower cars, and it's proving itself once again. Now, what interests me is we mentioned Lauro Costa.
Let's go to Billy.
7th.
Let's go to Leif Peterson. He was running 5th in the GTLMs. He had just looped it around, nosed it into the wall.
Oof, unfortunate news here early in the race. He will have time to try and make it up, but he's having to wait a long time to get this Ferrari turned back around. Ooh, and that's a hard hit.
And then he was
turned
pinned.
it to the pits.
Yeah, he was pinned right there. He couldn't do a donut in front of anybody. He lost a ton of time. He'll have to take that fast repair.
Oh, Lauro Costa and Kundinger again, and Duprat sliding behind them. Duprat comes around. There's more cars at their side as it's a traffic jam. Cars getting into one another. Trying to see who that is stopped. It's Scott Corbin and John King. And I think they were kicked all that off. There we go, as we get a camera looking now at the prototype that fell. John King kind of spun all his own into the corner.
Let's go back live, because a couple of HPDs, as we get a replay of this, a couple of HPDs running up there just got in a bit of a collision with one of the GTD cars. It was Armando Edwards.
And Lionel DePratt, is that what you're looking at too there, Sam?
Yeah, Armando Edwards came sliding through the Western Horseshoe after some contact from behind. And yeah, as you mentioned, I believe that's Lionel DePratt who really spun and got into the wall.
Yeah, Kevin Santana got a piece of DePratt, so there was a lot of stuff happening at the same time.
There we see back live Armando Edwards and Mark Wilson dueling it out down into the bus stop. DePratt, that was the second time in one lap that he had an incident. Remember, down into turn one, he was part of all that action. And then into the Western Horseshoe, he actually had a little bit of contact, it looks like, with Kevin Santana.
Yeah, he got together with Santana, and that turned him into the wall, so that was a tough one. Now you're looking there at Edwards. We talked about Laura Costa. He's up to 6th.
And also we should mention Robert Sklanka just had an issue in the bus stop. He's able to get the car going once again. This seems like pretty typical growing pains first race of the season to me, Bill.
Yeah. Some new drivers getting there, getting a taste of what's going on. Meanwhile, in the GTLM, I guess we have to tune into it, although I don't think that Ooms is doing anything. He's just following Paquin around. Their times are really good, though. They've put 3 seconds between them and Billy Smith.
We've jumped over here to these GTLMs, watching Ooms and Paquin battle it out. They're going to overtake Scott Corbin, who sits in the pits right now in the prototypes. And he's going to have to work his way back through.
John Ulmer doing a little air traffic controlling out there. I guess he was talking to Miguel Meyer, telling him where to go.
Typically, the slower class is known for being told to hold the low side on the oval portion. John just relaying that information as we jump to Steve McGarvey, who's in a close fight with Paul Darling. Now, Darling was dominant in the GT3s some seasons ago. He's got a lot more talent to try and face off against here in the GTLMs.
Darling's another one of those drivers that gets better as the race goes on. Sometimes he doesn't have the time to put in the practice. He's kind of learning on the job.
Sure, he's going to want to get up and try and face off with John Paquin and Jeff Ooms, who are right now about 5 seconds up the road. So he's got some time to make up.
Hard battle going on for 5th place in GTD right now. Kevin Santana comes out on top of it, 4th place rather, ahead of Dennis Savratic, but they're also in a battle with Brandon Guawasia and Sheldon Rosenbaum. They almost went 3 wide going down into turn 1. Santana comes back out on top for it for now. Let's not forget Santana had been making his way up through the field before he was involved in a bit of contact with the HPD leaders.
Just behind, we got a glance of Rosenbaum getting a run on Guaracia, but not able to do anything with it as they hit the Western Horseshoe. Accelerating out of the corner, a little bit of loss of grip from Rosenbaum, and he loses time as we hop on board the fluorescent blue machine.
Yeah, despite a bit of opening chaos in GTD, it's still very much Mercedes dominating the class, the top 9 positions. All Mercedes, Brian Burnett in 10th place in the lone Audi, and then all the Ferraris outside the top 10 in the GTD class.
Only one car has stopped so far, that's Leif Peterson. Not sure if he intends to get back out.
But Paul Slavonic has spun in turn 1, and he's stuck up with that wall bill like we saw earlier.
We're going to watch an onboard view. This is lone driver error, just under braking the rear of that Ferrari, wanting to swap ends.
Yeah, and he had to take a tow to the pits, much like what we saw earlier, because even though his car's not that badly damaged, there's no cautions here, there's no live marshals, so the only way he's going to safely get back to the pits is by taking a tow.
Back up to the GTLMs, Jeff Ooms and John Paquin. connected at the hip practically so far this race. No one wanting to give way to the other. Ooms has been trying to find a way past John Paquin, but he is not willing to give it up for now, even if it is a draft track.
I'll tell you what's going to make that interesting is when Kinsey gets up there. Because remember, we were looking at that battle between McGarvey and Darling. When Kinsey got through, they call him Bob the Blade. What he did was a slice between the two cars of McGarvey and Darling. Darling lost a ton of time. He's really working hard to get back to McGarvey. And I think that might happen when Kinsey gets up to the leaders, which is going to be pretty soon.
Development mid-pack, 29th overall in the GTDs. Benjamin Hackson has managed to break away from Cervetic, Gracia, and Rosenbaum now. So it's down to 3 in the fight for these GTD positions, down in 5th.
Yeah, a bit of time for Hackerson to catch up with Haley and Gerard in front of him. Now, a driver you won't see in the mid-pack here in GTD right now is Kevin Santana. He came into the pits last lap around.
Maybe we can go back up to Paquin real quick, because here it is. They're about, the leaders are getting together. And now they have another car up here with Salenka to get around. So we'll have 3 classes all mixed together. They're going to have, you know what, they're going to get them on the good part of the racetrack, too, so it's going to be a little easier. Oh, my.
I'm not sure what Tinsey was thinking there. If maybe he thought that the GTLM of John Paquin was going to take to the low line, but he managed to get through, got boxed in momentarily, cost him a 10th or 2, but continues on. But a great tow this time by Ooms as he closes in on the rear spoiler of Paquin.
I think Jeffrey knows that even if I pass Paquin, I'm not going to get away from him. I think he's comfortable where he is, burning a little less fuel. Let John do the work.
That's going to be fascinating as the pit stops do start to play out. Now, you mentioned that someone in the GTDs had taken a pit stop. Oh no! And is that's Ulmer? Got into him? Oh my goodness! Jeffrey Ooms, did he just lose it under braking?
Well, he took a dive down in there. I'm not sure what.
It was very late under braking,
really
too.
Late.
Wow. We're going to watch on board Ulmer. He had no chance to try and avoid this as Ooms clipped that tire barrier at the exit or the entrance of the pit wall. And he was well out there too.
Such a late. It's a strange place to try to make the pass.
Maybe hardware failure. Maybe his pedals gave up mid-corner.
Almost like the throttle stuck, yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
GTD's doing the same thing, doing it a lot cleaner, though, and Gerard, I think, just let Haley back by, or maybe not, because he's going to try and counter coming out of Turn 1, but Haley returns to the GTD lead.
Been a while since we've seen a change for position up at the top of those GTD cars. There you see the green and tan machine of Bradley Haley back in front. Wanting a little bit of redemption after last season.
Talking about redemption, right behind them is Dale Green, one of the drivers who wasn't able to qualify ahead of the GTD cars, just all the GTD cars being in a GTLM Ferrari. That meant he had to start from the pits, so he's trying to work his way up by these GTD drivers and catch up with his class. The other side of that redemption story that I was going to talk about, Bill, Lauro Costa, we wondered about his slow qualifying. Well, I think your analysis has been vindicated. He is up to 5th.
It's up to 5th. Benefited a little bit there from that incident between that involved Ooms. You know what that thing did with Ooms and Ulmer? What it effectively did was take the second place cars out of both those classes out of the running. And Ulmer's car was healthy, by the way. I was going to, he had got that early incident where I said, oh, maybe there's something wrong with it. No, he had good pace. Well, not anymore.
No, he actually took a tow to the pits, and he could have maybe tried to limp it around. I'm actually surprised that he didn't and taken his free repair, but I guess it would lock him into that 3-stop strategy.
I think that's what Ooms is doing right now. I don't think he brought his car in. It's still out there racing without a hood or a bonnet, depending on your part of the Atlantic.
Not sure if Canadians go by the British or the American pronunciation on that one.
All I know about Canada as it relates to England is they have Kinder Surprise as well. There's a brown chocolate on the outside, the white chocolate on the inside, and then you have a little toy inside the egg. America, you really need to catch up on that.
There we see Ooms continuing on to the oval section of Daytona. A lot of action happening around the track, a lot of mistakes being made. So far, your leaders of the three classes, Tinsey up at the front, unfazed since the drop of the green. Paquin now unfazed that he's lost Ooms behind him, leading the GTLMs. And then up at the front of the GTDs, Bradley Haley is closely stalked by Jason Girard.
Man, Audi and Ferrari are not getting any luck in GTD with... boy, it's just the performance by Mercedes here is so dominant. We're what, half an hour into this race? Scott McGarvey in 8th place. I don't think we mentioned him today, but currently holding down the 8th position. Top 8 being Mercedes, and then Brian Burnett and Paul Lindsay rounding out that top 10 in the Audi and Ferrari. I wonder if this will affect future races.
An update, Armando Edwards is into the pits for the prototypes, and I'm not sure if this is a scheduled stop.
But remember, he was involved in an incident earlier, so maybe he is opting to go with a well, mind you, as we approach the half-hour mark, I almost wonder if he can do one more stop from here.
I can report that it was not scheduled. He actually hit the inside of the pit wall, much like we saw with Ooms, with a mistake on entry into turn 1. At the same time, Ulmer has exited back out, and he's trying to make his way back through the field. He's got a long ways to go, though.
Oh, how about want to see a definition of a punt? Let's take a look at John King. If you can get this, just happened as I started to talk about it. Going down into turn 1. Go look at this one. This is a punt.
Wow.
Both drivers go off, yeah.
Great job by the Blackadder Motorsports driver to collect it together, though. Get it back going and not panic. So easy to do with the speed that you're coming into that first corner. We watch it from... Oof. Thank goodness we don't have to pay for virtual camera.
Yeah.
Carter Cundin are into the pits. I wonder if this is scheduled.
I think it is. I think it is, Sam. I think this is I don't think they can do it in 2.
But if they can make it 5 minutes more, then they can do it in 2.
That's right. Well, I'm not sure if they can. We'll find out when Tinsey comes in. If Tinsey comes in and you see that there's a double digits left to race, that'll tell you a lot.
Well, we might have another development at the top of the HPDs because Tinsey is blinking horribly.
I don't see him for me.
Yeah, he just disappeared going over the start-finish straight.
He's still not back.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Now, Daniel Gralti, you might see some damage on his machine, but on my screen he looks fine. That, of course, is a little bit of a bug. So pay no attention to Daniel Gralti's lack of front and rear wings. Now, the significant thing about Tinsey possibly leaving if his car falls out of connection is Simonic is set to inherit the lead. And he is actually just behind Pfeiffer, who returns to the track from an incident.
Does Tinsey do live streaming?
Typically he does.
Okay, I see Dino Topic typed in the in-race track, kill the stream. I wonder if that was a message to Tinsey. Tinsey realised something was going on with his internet.
Tinsey might have to try and do a precarious lean away from his wheel on the oval and click a button or two to get rid of that. he still is flashing in and out only within a second or two, and then disappearing back into the ether.
He's still shown at the top of the leaderboard from iRacing, even though I can't find him on track.
Oh, and Stephen McGarvey, did something happen to him out of the bus stop chicane?
No, I think it was... I'm showing contact going into when he just came out onto the oval. Let's see. Yeah, he was slow even before he was slow entering the oval.
I almost wonder if maybe he's trying to make it to the 30-minute point. I don't know if he's trying to do any fuel saving.
That might be.
Alex Simonik, well, no, that ain't fuel saving right there. Alex Simonik, meanwhile, was making a scheduled stop.
All right, so Simonik may be thinking, might as well get it in now. I do think, actually, Stephen McGarvey is running out of fuel. I think his cut through the bus stop, to me, is a sign that he has petered out, because right now, coming through NASCAR 3 and 4, he's down off the banking and coasting.
Boy, that looks like a car that's out of gas.
He's just barely going to make it as well.
It's very bizarre.
All right, let's head to the lead of the GTDs as Gerard and Haley.
Gerard. Now, Haley and Gerard actually just got by Haley that lap. I wonder if he did that intentionally, knowing that he was going to pit, to kind of like try and buy him an extra second.
And I saw a flash of Robert Tinsley into the pits as well. So
yeah.
He's taking his stop.
Tinsley announced earlier this lap that he was pitting, and as a matter of fact, a lot of the HPT leaders are in. Of course, I almost wonder if Tinsley would take an extra minute to fix whatever bug he is having, but I have a feeling when you're running for the lead of a race, you can't really afford to do that.
We've seen some connection problems from Tinsley before. Probably one of the few things that kept the championship hot as long as it did before Tinsley ran away with it in the latter half of the season.
Now, Sam, these guys are exiting the pits. So we're talking about the prototypes with just over an hour left of racing. So it's going to be really close if they can go do this on one more stop.
And as they exit the pits, it's creating a few hairy moments into the International Horseshoe with drivers going 2 and 3 wide. Fortunately, all clean so far.
Traditionally, the GTD... Whoa, and Cruelty, who was in second in the prototypes, gets into who was that
John
in the
Kim?
Ferrari.
He got putted earlier. That's the same guy who just got putted we had on screen. Ralty had just come out of the pits, so I'm not sure, maybe he wasn't comfortable with what he had under him.
And King backed it into the tires very heavily, probably took a significant amount of damage on the rear of that car. And that was Cruelty that we were watching on screen. Again, that damage is not actually there, so pay no attention to that. Looking to see if we can find a battle on the track. My timing and scoring is going a little wacky with Tinsley continually going in and out. Boy,
I'm only getting glimpses of Robert. Let me say this, he's not there more than he is there.
And what amazes me, Bill, is typically if you have those connection problems and you cross the start-finish line, sometimes it won't count your laps, but it seems to have for him so far.
We had a bizarre race recently, I think it was at Watkins Glen, where the leader of a race here on the GSRC, I can't recall who it was, but they blinked as they were going over the start-finish line, and they actually disappeared from the sim on their screen and came back 5 seconds later at the start-finish line and lost about 3 positions. Meanwhile, Stephen McGarvey actually just lost internet, and we got spin in turn 1, Steve Jones, and he collects Mark Wilson.
Remember, McGarvey just ran out of fuel to get to his pit stop as we watch. Wow, but Jones came in more than a little hot. That was molten lava into that corner.
The brake pedal is lava.
He manages to get it going again, though, not without hitting a car along his way. But poor McGarvey, this has not been the start of the title defense that he's wanted. Running out of fuel and now running out of internet connection. He has reconnected, though.
If your initials are as we get Paquin coming into the pits.
All right, and I believe we're waiting on Bradley Haley to still take his stop.
Yeah, over in GTD. I'm going to say, if your initials are BH, you're apparently good at saving fuel, because our current GTD leaders are Bradley Haley and Benjamin Hackerson, who have yet to pit.
Oh, we may have finally seen Tinsey get bit by the bug that we mentioned. Oh, and Tinsey actually has reappeared behind Ralty, so no, he was not bit by the bug. He has just been going slow, I guess, trying not to hit cars.
I wonder if that start-finish line internet bug happened to him.
He would be a whole lap down if that were the case. And honestly, you guys are blessed because I can't find Tinsey at all. But I'm still scoring him. iRacing still scoring him on the lead for me.
Yeah, he's
of course, they haven't got across the start-finish line yet.
He must have given it up this lap then. Yeah, it's definitely not him losing a lap by crossing the line and not having the internet connection. This is him slowing up and allowing Daniel Gralty by. And we should point out, Gralty has pitted, so this is a legitimate lead right now. Watching the battle for third, though, as Alex Simonik is trying to take it away from Schindel. He's got a big draft.
And another factor that's going to be thrown in for these drivers when they come around to... Oh, and there's contact between them.
Down into turn 1. Hard action here in the prototypes. We should point out that Dino Topic had a bit of an incident getting into the wall and then got hit by a prototype. I believe he's taken a tow and is into the pits now. There's a car backing down the pits. That would be Sean Reese backed completely down the pit lane. I'm pretty sure usually... Oh, about halfway down the pit lane, I should clarify. Looks like he just missed his pit stall coming in.
Yeah, the GTD leaders have all been making their stops. That's why I wanted to really keep an eye on that battle for third in prototype as they came around turn 1 to see if there would be any of the GTD leaders coming out of the pits as they were making their way over towards the International Horseshoe. Fortunately, that didn't happen.
We'll pass for third, almost, and the prototypes are going to go side by side into the bus stop. Schindel once again denies Simonik. They even had traffic to deal with. That was the GTD of Scott McGarvey. Using the draft once again, Simonik switches to the high side. Door to door, they come through NASCAR 3 and 4. Simonik has the pace. He's able to get in front of him before turn 1.
Now, Simonik had a really long pit stop that went on for about, another 15 seconds longer than anybody else's, so maybe it was a speeding penalty. That's why he fell back. That's why Schindel's up so high.
Now, Bradley Haley just made his scheduled stop. Now, remember, Haley was battling for the GT lead with Jason Gerard.
Sheldon Rosenblum just out of the bus stop, just looped it around.
So here comes Haley out of the pits, and that's Hackerson alongside him. Now, I think Haley lost a lot of time because he overshot his pit stall, and sure enough, there's Jason Girard in front of him. So all of a sudden, Hackerson has all these... Oh, slides contact between him and Haley, and that will allow Jason Girard to run away.
Certainly not the exit that Bradley Haley wanted. Got a whiff of that position, and then it scampered away. Darling has finally taken his pit stop. With that, that completes our first round of stops for all three classes. Let's go through your top five.
Let's go there right now because here comes a pass. He's back. Tinsley is back on screen, and they are now side by side with Gralty.
At least he's trying. Coming up to the start-finish line, we're going to hold on to this, and then we'll try and get to our top five of each class. And Tinsey actually backs out of it. Is he dealing with some sort of damage potentially here? Whoa, and a wide move by Gralty, hands it over anyways. It's been a chaotic first stint for a lot of drivers. Let's watch the move. Also, as we watch Gralty go wide, I should point out that Matt Owens, Sean Reese, and David Tejada in the GTDs were all involved in a turn one incident. All three cars were able to keep going, but let's run down the top five of our prototypes. Tinsey back up in the lead after a big scare for our champion. Daniel Gralty sits in second. He could be hungry for the win here, now thinking that he might have a chance. Alex Simonik is not too far behind. If something happens to Gralty, he's there to pick up the pieces. He's finally gotten past Mark Schindel, who is still keeping hold of Simonik. Schindel is in fourth. And then Carter Kundinger, newcomer to this prototype class. He is rounding out the top five. Bill?
Okay, right now the leaders down there, I'm showing it as, is it Jeffrey Ohms? As I just had a lead, it was, because I was showing Darling before. Okay, so it's Ohms and then Smith in second. Darling in third. Now you may want to be wondering what happened to John Paquin. He took a really long pit stop. Maybe he took tires, maybe there's a speeding penalty. But right now he is, I believe, fourth in class. Then we get down to Hill. Now the question was, Darling was up there a minute ago. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Bird, but I'm looking to see Darling was, all right, Darling's back out there in third. I have, my timing of scoring is a little wacky as well. Sam, what do you got?
Well, we have the top three in GTD are quite close together, but not as close as what they were on pit exit there for Haley. It's Jason Girard currently leading ahead of Benjamin Hackerson and then Bradley Haley. Once again, all Mercedes, and they are all Mercedes through the top five, you'll see, because here we go back to Dennis Savratic, the new driver in this class, one of the new drivers in this class, having a solid day there in fourth position. Rounding out the top five in GTD is Kevin Santana, but I am a little bit concerned for Santana. Remember, his first stop wasn't exactly scheduled. He had a bit of damage early on, and I almost wonder if he... and as a matter of fact, he's in the pits now. Yeah, he is going to have to make another stop before the end.
There we see Santana, who is looking promising, but things have gone sour. It's been that way for a few drivers. One driver who's seeing things looking up is Carter Kundinger, who has chased down Schindel for fourth position, has been challenging him for it, and you can see him flashing his lights to try and get inside the head of Schindel. Closes in under the draft, coming up to the bus stop chicane. He's not brave enough to stick it in there, though.
Another driver on the march upwards now is Ross Booth with Santana's pit stop troubles. This has allowed Ross Booth to break into the top five in class, and he started in 8th position. So slowly but surely, Booth working his way up through the field.
And I'm starting to see Tinsey have
Yep.
connection issues once again.
Now he's back to second in the official scoring.
I was going to say he's dropping down below Simonik, actually, I'm seeing. I'm not exactly sure what's happening. All I know is right now we are seeing Daniel Gralty marked as our leader. I want to keep an eye on Kundinger and Schindel. This battle has been a fascinating one. Kundinger really seems to have the pace But once he's gotten up to the back of this gray HPD, just seems unable to do anything with that car. Gonna get a little bit of lap traffic. Stephen McGarvey just ahead of them. GTLM machine dutifully pulls off to the side. He's behind Tim McLeish. Once again, the draft. Oh, and they're going to get split as McLeish sandwiched between them. And look at all the time that Kundinger loses. That's going to split that battle up. Let's look back into the GTLMs. We haven't covered that class very much.
I think it's a bit of fool's gold here for Jeffrey Ooms as your leader. Remember, he had that incident that we saw where he put it into the barrels there and really damaged his car. He had to make an early stop, took a fast repair. I think he has 2 more stops still in his future. A full one and then a splash and go, or 2 medium length stops. But nevertheless, everybody else can do in one. So I think Billy Smith is in the best position in second right now.
And I've got to imagine, guys, one factor we're not going to see during these pit stops is tyres, because even though it's a 90-minute long race, it's a bit shorter than what we usually have here. It's under the lights, so the track temperature is not too bad. It's a nice and cool 74 degrees, so the tyres are going to be if you're putting on their coats, I would imagine. And also, the fact it's Daytona. It's not exactly the twistiest track out there. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see anyone take tyres today.
Let's hop over to the GTD lead, because even though it is still led by Gerard, Hackison has run him down, and Bradley Haley is back on Hackison. That's John Ulmer squeezing through in the prototype, trying to make up for his lost ground. He's gotten up to 9th. He's going to interrupt this just momentarily.
Yeah, well, of course, the reason I'm excited for the Street TD battle for the lead with that tyre point I just made is that all of these guys' pit stops should be around the same, I should imagine, when they make their second stop, and hopefully this freeway battle will continue until the checkered flag. Now, Dennis Saverick is the next driver behind these, but the interval is, well, let's see, we got on screen right there, as a matter of fact, 6 seconds.
So things getting interesting up at the front of the GTDs. I see that Scott Corbin has come in for a pit stop, but it doesn't look like he hit anything. Oh, and he comes back out. So it seems that was scheduled. Maybe Corbin's trying to split things out a little bit more evenly in a 3-stop strategy. Hearing a bit of talk from Simonik, upset with someone.
Brandon Garcia, I think he was a little confused as they were working through the twisty sections of the track, but Simonik has that done.
He made a little bit of contact there into the Western Horseshoe, but both were able to continue. Looks like very light contact.
I think Garcia may have run into a little bit of trouble a bit earlier on, because he had been running up higher than where he was now. As a matter of fact, I think before the round of stops he was in 5th.
Yeah, Tinsey just let him go by. We're talking about Carter Kundinger went up to P4. Tinsey just let him roll by. Now, Tinsey is out there looking really strong as far as his connection goes, but not up to speed.
This wouldn't really make sense. Your connection doesn't affect the speed of your car on track.
Unless he's just decided to avoid being around anybody. He's trying to be antisocial because he knows that no one can see him.
And he just got on the radio letting drivers know that he's only going to be passing on the straight. So I think, yeah, here he sneaks to the inside of Paul Lindsay. I think he's trying to do what you said, Bill, and just play it as safe as humanly possible. This does change the complexion of the top of the prototypes. Gralty leads. Simonik holds down second. Shadell is in third. He was fighting with Carter Kundinger for quite a while, but Kundinger has fallen roughly a second behind. We've seen him have good pace. He could still yet run down that number 416.
The battle for the top 3 in GTD has heated up again. Hackerson has caught Gerard, and take a closer look at these 3, Gerard, Hackerson and Haley. I have a feeling these might be the 3 we'll be keeping our eyes on throughout the whole championship. Of course, Haley at the tail end of his train has the advantage. He ran this car full season last year, and he's going to be allowed by into second by Hackerson.
A little bit of a game of leapfrog there in those Mercedes. And I tell you what, Bill, you'll be glad for Hackeson's paint scheme. Very, very bright and easy to identify.
That's what we like. Let's go to 16th overall, Paul Darling, because I think we have an important pass coming up. And there it is. That's the Pac-Man go. Well, no, he dives it in deep. And now I think he's going to get it as
Darling
runs a little bit wide. Yeah.
That was Jimbo Pfeiffer we saw a flash of on the outside trying to get his car going. Didn't hit anything.
So that's a pass for position. Remember, Paquin was way up in front early on. He took an incredibly long pit stop. I went back to check. I didn't see tires. I think he had a speeding penalty that he's trying to make up for right now.
We see Darling working his way through the infield. Not far behind him is Kundinger and Tinsey. And Tinsey may have figured out his strategy now, as we mentioned, trying to pass people on the straights because he's all over the back of Kundinger.
And he just let Kundinger down a little, let him by a little while ago, but I think maybe he's feeling confident with how the car is. Maybe Tinsey wants a race again.
I'm assuming it was due to traffic, but Grolty lost 2.5 seconds in total the Alex Simonik last lap for the overall lead.
Good to have a fight for P1 on our hands yet again. Now, a few of these drivers, Bill, might be pretty tired still, because I know of a couple that I can see that were in the Pacific Major Southern 500 last night, which lasted 4 hours.
I'm still tired, and I had a comfortable commentator's chair.
Chris Pence being one of those. Brian Bennett was in that race as well. I think Scott Corbin was in there.
To be precise, 3 hours and 55 minutes. There was a 4-hour time limit. They snuck it in underneath.
Not that 5 minutes really means a whole lot at that level. Whoa, and Simonik, taking to the grass to try and overtake Jeffrey Ooms, who is our GTLM leader, but we believe it should be handed over when Ooms takes his next stop because he is off sequence.
Well, that's because Simonik's in a hurry, and I think he's got a good chance there. They're going to work their way around. That's Daniel Gralti there. I'm sorry, no, that's the lap car they're going around is...
But that's our leader in the prototype. Sorry to get you off there, Bill. This is a fight for the lead now.
Yeah, that's who he's chasing. He's chasing Gralti. Simonik is trying to get Lionel DePratz in there as well, but he's not on the same lap. Now they go around Marty Jeffries.
Closing in with the draft.
Soon will be coming.
Marty Jeffries spun just in front of Lionel DePratz. Both of them spun off as we watch that battle for the lead heat up even more. Simonik up to the high side. Daniel Gralti holds on to that yellow line.
Yeah, but these guys are about to have a problem that they're about to catch a three-way battle for the lead in GTD as Simonik, I think... Oh, who led over the line? It's anyone's guess as they go down into turn 1. Simonik had it.
Deeper onto the brakes goes Alex Simonik. He's been wanting an opportunity to take the win in this series. He's been out here maybe a little bit longer than Gralti at this point. And finally he gets himself into that position as traffic really wreaking havoc. Christopher Sherburne gets out of the way. I'm hearing something going on with Billy Smith. I'm not sure if you understood what was going on there, Bill.
I have not. He's slow. I'll see if I can find out what happened.
In the meantime, we're holding on to Gralti, trying to give chase as he gets held up a little bit by Benjamin Hackison, who is in that three-way fight for the lead in the GTDs. Split now by Bradley Haley, loses yet more time. In the meantime, Simonik is able to overtake our leader of the GTEs of Jason Girard. And now that they hit the banking, finally, Gralti is going to be able to stream by Girard and have nothing but air between himself and our prototype leader.
Yeah, but it's a lot more air than before.
Oh, if we can find, this is huge. If Marty Jeffries, if we can find it. Remember we were talking about the spin that Jeffries had in the bus stop? He pulled off onto the grass, and when he came back onto the track, right in front of Billy Smith, who T-boned him. So we're not able to find it, but that's what Billy Smith was complaining about.
Disappointment for Billy Smith, who I kind of wondered, Bill, if he'd be able to duplicate his successes in the GTD class of before.
Well, he was doing great, but when a car pulled right out in front of you, it was nothing he could do.
Bill, to your point earlier, pit road is getting busy with 37 minutes left on the clock. These drivers definitely won't be able to make it here to the end, but I think a few of these cars in the pits were actually drivers who were thrown off sequence earlier due to incidents.
There we see Billy Smith coming out of the pits now. Let's go to the prototypes. Laurel Costa has just taken 5th place off of Robert Tinsley. And at first I thought that maybe Tinsley was falling back. Oh, and Daniel Gralti is stationary outside the Western Horseshoe. Something has happened to our 2nd place driver in the prototypes, and it was contact. You're going to see David Tejada in the green machine on the outside. Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, they were side by side. They got into it once, they got into it twice, and then Gralti got the worst for wear.
That slots him all the way down into 6th position. That means Laurel Costa now is up to 4th. We've seen this story before with the Brazilian.
How about Mark Schindel running in 2nd in the prototypes?
Oh, how much longer, though? Here comes Kundinger with a gaggle of cars ahead of them as they squeeze through. And again, that damage is not actually there. We're having a bit of an issue. We apologize for the technical difficulties, but Schindel going defensive down to the inside, and look at this strategic move by Carter Kundinger, elects to pit.
Way early.
I think he knows this is a three-stop for him.
Three-stopper for him.
He's getting out of the battle now, trying to get himself some clear air. As we watch Tinsley give chase to Costa. Costa's promoted to 3rd.
Looks like Tinsley's willing to be a bit more aggressive now. His connection's been back for a while, so he's not afraid to pass these cars wherever he catches them.
Somebody could get a setup for Laurel Costa that's in qualifying trim as we get a block up from Robert Tinsley. Unusual for him, down into the Western Horseshoe, loses time. Costa could be deadly in these cars. He's got race pace, just does not have the 1-lap pace. Kundinger finished with his pit stop, exits in 7th.
Big slide in the grass in the International Horseshoe for Brian Burnett. The problem is, of course, for him, let's see how many positions it's cost him. He's down to 8th now, so it cost him a couple. He'd been running as high as 6th as the highest non-Mercedes in the race, but now Audi go back to 8th.
We see Brandon Guarcia just ahead of him by about 4.5 seconds. Remember, Gralti had that problem earlier. Well, he's had to scythe his way back through those GTD leaders once again, this time without as much of a fight on his hands.
Trouble for Dave Hill. Bill?
And while that's going on, Jeffrey Ooms had to make, I believe he made a 2nd stop now from the lead of the GT Le Mans. So that's going to be too far back. I don't think he's going to be able to get there home from here. One more for him. Paquin and Darling now running 1-2 in that class.
Not a huge surprise there. We talked about Darling sometimes having a lack of practice, warming into the car. Well, I'd say he's warmed up.
Can we get a little love to car number 40, Ryan Bird, 3rd overall in class? Haven't talked much about him. He's got 18 seconds. Well, now maybe he's behind Ooms. Let me correct myself. I guess he's 4th as Ooms has got out. But again, I think Ooms is, well, we'll see how it plays out. Nevertheless, a nice run for Ryan in 4th.
He was
Timing and scoring is killing me over here.
And Ryan Bird was flashing his headlights at nothing, and I'm not sure. I thought for a second maybe he was announcing he was coming into pits by flashing them, but
listening to the broadcast is what he was doing. I hear you, Soup.
Could be.
Simonic comes in, and a little bit early, though.
This is our leader in the prototypes. I made a note in my script for the broadcast that one of the things that has been a long time coming is a win for Alex Simonic. Wondering if maybe he could find the speed. Well, we haven't seen the speed this race, but we've seen the opportunism.
Simonic came in about 20 seconds before the 1/3 mark last time, and now he's about a minute and a half before where he needs to be. Yeah, I don't think he can get there one more stop unless he really conserves.
32 minutes to go, so indeed, he's about 2 minutes short. That's a little over a lap.
It was such a large field, and with them cutting it so close, you've got to imagine there's at least 1 or 2 drivers out there who are going to try it.
Got a few of our GTLM drivers coming in for their stops. Jimbo Pfeiffer comes in and hits his stall.
Of course, all these drivers can afford to do it because we know the GTLM and the GTD cars don't burn as much fuel, and they'll be able to make it 2-stop.
From what I understand, GTLMs are going to be a little tight as well. We'll get confirmation once we get to the end of the race on that one. GTDs, though, traditionally are able to go the longest, and so far that has proven true once again. That's still led by Gerard, Haley, and Hackison.
All right, Schindel is in the prototypes from the lead. Tinsey as well.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Super, Tinsey and Schindel come in, but there were so many cars who looked like they were ducking into the pits. It looked like pit entry was about to get really busy, but no, it was just those 2 cars coming in.
Joe Peak, look who's leading the prototypes right now.
Lauro Costa, but he has yet to take his stop.
But if there is one driver out there that we know is great with fuel, it is him.
Oh.
I think he's there. I think he's in the window.
Well, Simonic goes past Schindel and Tinsey.
And Tinsey leapfrogged Schindel in that pit stop.
Now, 11 seconds behind Costa is another rookie to this series, Mike Young, who's able to go long as well. He has stayed out and has yet to take his second stop.
Mike had trouble really early. He qualified 4th. He has good pace. Got in trouble. There's another one. But what's interesting about Costa is he's fast and yet he doesn't burn fuel. So that's a nice combination.
Yeah, think about all the positions he's gained this race, and yet is still able to come around and just make it in under that 30-minute mark, that magic minute. Staying on Costa here, looking like he's going to pit in, and yes, gets it down to that pit speed limit.
That could all end up being for naught if the leader hits the start-finish line right at the wrong time, and we get an extra lap at the end of the race.
This is true too. Well, Mike Young also comes in, and this is going to hand the lead back over to Simonic.
Yeah, so keep an eye on Mike Young later on. He hasn't necessarily been a contender up front, but if he can make it on 2 stops, whereas the rest of the field can have to do 3, maybe that could allow Young to leapfrog a few positions in the closing minutes.
In the GTD class, Jason Gerard has taken his stop. However, Bradley Haley has stayed out, and Benjamin Hackson just came in this lap.
So let's see where Hackison gets out with relation to Gerard.
Hackison's still stationary. This being a 90-minute race, one thing we haven't talked about is tires and who has decided to take them.
Oh, I just assumed earlier, Joe, that no one would. given the fact it's such a cool track and not exactly the twistiest of courses.
Axon being closed in on as he exits out the pit lane. It's going to be extremely close. They're side by side, inside line on the pit exit. Going to go to Hackison. And he's just behind him.
He has to be careful on that pit exit. That pit exit can be more treacherous than the entire racetrack.
As Jeff Gordon found out. Let's see, are we waiting on any other further drivers to take their final stops? I'm pretty sure the
Bradley
GT...
Haley.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens this time by. But mind you, maybe it won't happen this time by. Maybe he'll try and stay out for an extra lap or two, see if he can use this clean racetrack to his advantage and have a second or two over his competitors when he comes out. And sure enough, he's not slow and he's not coming in this time around.
I want to say he made it between 5 and 10 minutes past the half-hour mark. So he could still go another few laps here.
Sam, you were talking tires. At least for the prototypes, the top guys did not. But Carter Kundinger on that last stop did take tires. So we'll see how that plays out if he's going to be faster on the last 30 minutes.
Probably not a bad idea in an HPD where changing tires I don't think takes as long as a GT car.
Let's give a little love to 28th, 29th, and 30th overall. Pfeiffer, Lindsay, and Slavonic all close together here in a fight.
Yeah, Lindsay though in a GT3 Ferrari, Pfeiffer and Slavonic GTEs.
Knew I'd get bit by that at least once. There we see the difference, the headlights on the two cars, and Lindsay actually comes on in. So in all those pit stops, Tinsey has cycled out into second. He's gotten past Schindel. Costa comes back out in fourth, and he's actually chasing down Schindel right now.
Yeah, it's Simonic, Tinsey, Schindel, but I think that's all just silliness because I think the guy who's not going to have to come in again is Laura Costa, and he's only 14 seconds back of the leader.
The big banana himself has adapted to these HBDs quite nicely. And poor Mark Schindel, the Midwest driver, was getting a whiff of a podium this race, and unless there's some issues that happened ahead of him or to Laura Costa, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to hold on to this for 25 more minutes.
I don't know what 14 seconds, how much you can save if 14 seconds is enough to where these guys can save and lift and still maintain the lead and go that extra point. It's 2 laps. I don't know. We'll see.
Still, you have to think that Simonic is feeling the nerves now. He's got an inkling of a first win in this series. He's holding down P1. He's gotten up here. He's had to pass cars to try and get up to the front, having qualified himself in 6th in his class. Is he watching that fuel gauge? Is he lifting that right foot a little bit on the entry? For fans of John Ulmer, he has gotten himself up to 8th. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, I talked about Carter Kundinger taking tires. He just turned his fastest lap of the race. So he's coming, and he's running faster than the leaders right now.
All right, 3rd place looking like it might change. Schindel to the inside in the gray machine. The blue one outbraking both of them. Going a little bit wide and not able to finish the job is Laura Costa as they go side by side through the S's. He's going to have the inside once again down into the International Horseshoe. This time he gets it done. Schindel comes back at him, gets into the draft. How aggressive is the Midwest driver going to be? The Brazilian holds the middle of the track, trying to deny him the line. Looking for an over-under. Schindel misses the apex and can't come back at him.
John Paquin in the pits, another driver in the pits with a lot of damage is Scott McGarvey. Now, he was a driver who had been having a good day in GTD.
Here we see Paquin exiting, and you can see the timing and score has him marked in third, but that is Jeffrey Ooms who is overtaking him, who we believe needs another stop.
Possibly. I start to question myself now when I see how long Darling can go.
Certainly is a great run for Darling here. Did Darling have problems as well, though?
No, it's just he's been out there for 17. It's going to be like 18 laps this stint.
We haven't taken a look at the GT lead in a while, and maybe we should, because it looks like Gerard has only a scant lead over Hackison, but I am not seeing our third competitor in that trio.
Because he hasn't pit yet. Haley keeps on going. And this is obviously, and in fact he's passing pit entry again. Haley's, is he going to one-stop this? Obviously, I'm pretty sure that's impossible, but it's going to be a very quick pit stop when he does come in.
Number 428, running what we're used to seeing out of these GT3 cars, which is taking the long strategy, going as far as you can, getting it as accurate as you can, and then coming back in as we ride on board with 5th place in class Benjamin Hackison.
Meanwhile, Brian Burnett has had a big spin in the Audi. Not the first time we've seen him off, but the problem he's got right now is he actually just had to do a good few hundred meters reverse trying to get back out onto the tarmac, so this is going to cost him a lot of time and positions. We continue to watch this battle between Gerard and Hackison. Now, of course, if I'm wrong and Haley comes out right in the middle of this, that'll really heat things up. But I anticipate Haley might actually be able to leapfrog this battle.
Getting information that Haley was actually faster last lap. That pays credence to your theory. He just worked his way through the bus stop, but he had to do with traffic of Jeff Hooper. That could have slowed him down that time by. Let's see if he comes in this time. Out of NASCAR 3 and 4. 20 minutes left on the clock, and once again, no. Haley missed out on that championship last year. Came in at the end of season 4. Showed himself to be a tough cookie.
Credit where credit's due in GTD. Haley's not the only one to be able to run it this long. Brandon Guarcia is out there still, having yet to make his second stop.
Indeed, you can see Guarcia running in second right now.
Guarcia can't go as far as Haley, though.
Did Costa have some sort of problem for a second there?
It's just
he made
Schindel
contact.
got around him again.
There was contact between Schindel and Costa going into the bus stop, and Schindel actually had to take evasive action. You're going to see on the replay, it was a pass attempt by Costa, getting his car down to the inside there, and was not given a whole lot of room. My goodness, that was aggressive. Let's go on board Schindel. I'm not sure if this would count as an illegal pass here, Billy. He was below that double yellow line.
Yeah, they talked about that too. The only place they'll let you go underneath there is in the tri-oval.
There may be some talk a little bit after that.
And they're side by side right now. And this is really not Costa's game right here, because he doesn't really need to battle this guy, because I think he's going to have to take one more stop.
Meanwhile, Bradley Haley found pit entry. I think he'd been searching for it.
Sorry, on screen we saw a big bobble from Schindel, and that breaks up the battle for good. Honestly, though, Bill, it would behoove him to try and slow down Costa as much as he can, so I kind of don't blame him.
Well, I'll tell you who is slowing down, and that's Alex Simonik, and I know what he's up to. He's trying to nurse this thing around. He's running some incredibly slow laps. His last time was a 1:38.2.
Yeah, we were watching the GTD leaders on screen now of Hackerson and Gerard working their way around the course. But you see, Haley is already running out of pit road, and now he finally gets to pit exit, and he is going to have a pretty impressive lead over Gerard and Hackerson.
Oh, but he gets into the pit wall! Haley scrapes the exit wall. How much damage did that give him as he comes out, and he's going to have, it looks like a 7-second lead I'm seeing? Watching on board on the replay.
Pretty significant contact. His car's not sporting that much damage, though.
We watched on the replay. You can see that right side buckled upwards. We're going to find out if he's lost some top end now. That gap holding it at 7 seconds. Up at the front overall, though, Simonik is now under 6 seconds ahead of Tinsley. He's closing in.
Tinsley about 2 seconds a lap, and I think Simonik could not care what Tinsley, when he passes him and where Tinsley goes. I think he knows Tinsley has to stop again. I think Simonik is nursing this. I think the interval he has to watch out for is between him and Costa.
Paul Darlin into the pits from the GTOM lead.
Bill, when was the last time Tinsley pitted, actually? Did he make it to the 30-minute mark?
No, they all pitted one lap before Costa did. No, none of them made it to 30. They put it with about 32 to go.
Going to see if something happened to Simonik, but I think he may have lost connection here.
How ironic that would have been. Was that coincidental?
No, I think that counts as ironic.
He has gone. Clearly, the racing gods did not like him saving fuel, and they blinked him out into Rod Serling land. Yeah, he's gone. Yeah. No. I guess quick literary lesson for our viewers. Ironic is something that the audience does not expect to happen, and that would be the case with Simonik. It was Tinsley we were watching the whole time for his connection. Thank you, Alanis Morissette.
I was just going to mention her as well.
David Head locked the rear brakes entering turn 1 and slid sideways into the tyre barrier. No one else collected, but he's trying to drive it out of there right now. His passenger side door stuck in the wall, though. It won't let him.
Watch on the replay. Ooh, just started to get away from him once it shifted to the banking there.
Good thing he didn't have a passenger.
Yeah.
Hey, confirmation. Alex Simonik lost the internet connection.
Even Tinsley gets on the radio remarking how sad that development is. My goodness. So Robert Tinsley now is our leader, but is he going to have to pit? Is Lauro Costa going to come away with this one on his first try in the prototypes? Let's go through our order. As I said, Tinsley leading, Costa in second. Mark Schindel gets bumped up to third. That podium might just happen for him. He's got a big gap over fourth place, so he doesn't have to worry about Carter Kundinger behind him. And then Mike Young is now promoted to the top 5. Bill?
Just like in the prototypes, I think our leader has to make one more stop as well. And it's right now, it's Jeffrey Ohms. We'll see if he can nurse it around. He's got a 3-second lead on John Paquin. Now, about 7 seconds back then is Paul Darling, and these guys have all made their stops. Then it's about a minute all the way back to Ryan Bird, who sits in 4th. And coming back out after T-boning somebody and the bus stop, it's Billy Smith running in 5th. Sam?
Well, Bradley Haley doesn't seem to have that much damage because he continues to lead the GTD field. by quite a significant margin over Jason Gerard. Unfortunately for Gerard, he cannot say the same about a significant margin behind him. Benjamin Hackerson right on his rear wing as we enter the closing 13 minutes of this race. They have a bit of a gap over fourth in class, though. A very solid performance so far in this series debut by Dennis Savratic in fourth position. And then it's a Mercedes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with Ross Booth in fifth place. Actually, let's go by Brandon Guacio, who's in sixth, and give a shout out to Paul Lindsay in seventh position, our first non-Mercedes in class in the Ferrari GT3. Actually, Booth might actually be about to lose fifth place here. I hadn't realised Guacio right up on him. They're battling for the position on the oval right now, getting very close.
There we can see side by side. Even in the mid-pack, drivers fighting hard for every spot that they can get as they come back to the backstretch.
So Guacio gets that position for now. Now they're about to go by Dave Hill, the Ford GT, running in the grass for some reason. Fortunately, he's back out onto the racetrack, so they won't have to worry about him sliding around. Let's see if Booth can get the slipstream on Guacio here, see if he wants that fifth place back.
And as we watch this, Bill, you might want to lean out the window and yell at the power company. We've heard from Simonic, your fellow Californian, fell out of the race because he lost power. Whoa, and a big bobble from Brandon Guacio under braking, clipping the grass down into turn one. Taking a little bit of a peek to the inside. Once again, Brandon Guacio bravely chopping him off. Ross Booth can't quite seem to get that spot away. That car behind them, Miguel Meyer, is not in this fight. A little bit off the apex for Guacio. Booth poking and prodding, trying to find some place to try and squeeze through. They can see the yellow headlights behind, indicating it's a GTLM, and Meyer is waiting very patiently for them to find an opening.
Yeah, with 11 minutes left in this race, so really no pressure behind them for position, nothing in front. It's almost curious as to why Booth is in such a desperation to get back by when he could wait for the end of the race.
Oh, Kundinger has a spin from fourth place into turn one, and he actually makes contact with that inside pit wall. This is the most cars in one race I've ever seen come into contact with those tires.
And then that damage is going to cost him a position as Mike Young gets around him.
Booth trying on Guacio again, but they have GTOM traffic behind them in the form of Meyer. They go side by side, they may have even brushed.
Both come out the other side. Ross Booth once again can't get around Guacio. The Canadian driver continuing to deny him as Meyer now is passed, and they don't have to worry about him anymore.
Let's get a replay here up. I think it was a collision in the battle for fourth just now between Mike Young and Carter Kundinger.
And that was right after we left them as well, down into the Western Horseshoe. It was kicked off by traffic. Actually, Bradley Haley, our leader in the GTDs, caused him to be a little bit offline and tried to cut down ahead of Kundinger, and that spun Kundinger off. He managed to rejoin ahead of Young.
Talking about GTD leaders, Benjamin Hackerson running in third place just disappeared.
Seen a spate of that this race, it seems.
And he's back. But now he's lost a lot of time to Gerard and Paul Slavonic in the GTLM car behind him, getting on the radio, I think, saying, hey, you just disappeared for half a lap.
Our leader in that GTD class, Bradley Haley, has about 6 seconds over Gerard at this point.
The lead from Tinsey to Costa now to 3.3 seconds. There was some traffic for Tinsey. Maybe he's lifting as well. It's down to almost 3 seconds. It was as high since I've been watching it at 5.5.
Costa dealing with the traffic now. He got past Rosenbaum and King. He's waiting patiently to get past Lindsay. Swings to the outside as he returns to the oval. Down to 8 minutes to go on the clock now.
Yeah,
The timing swings back up. Sorry.
Yep.
getting back to the battle between Grassi and Booth, the reason I'm wondering why they're at it so hard is sometimes here, with the way the draft works on the run down to the finish straight on the final lap, you want to be the car in second place on the last lap. Of course, the reason you might want to be the car in front is in case you have to deal with lap traffic. Usually the car in front will sometimes be able to pull away.
Jeffrey Ooms goes around one more time. If there's another stop to make, it's not going to happen this lap. 3.3 is the interval back to the Pac-Man.
So we watch the Canadian go through the infield in that Ferrari. There's John Paquin giving chase behind. You could probably see him up ahead at this point. He's got visual. That gives him all the more impetus to try and push. Now, Bradley Haley has lost a lot of time. Before it was 7 seconds between himself and Gerard. It's now down to 4.5.
Yeah, he was just talking with Jim McInnes on the radio. I don't know if there was something going on, that a bit of a disagreement between those two heading into turn one.
It was, "Don't you see me?" That was from the leader, and it came back from McInnes. "Yeah, we're having a battle."
Yeah,
everybody has their own right to racetrack.
Yeah, McInnes is racing the Ferrari GT3 in front of him of Tim McLeish.
Those are lapped cars, I believe, in the same class, which makes it all the more difficult for Bradley Haley to try and get by. He's going to have the draft here this time. Merck swings down low.
Yeah, the point McInnes is trying to make is he's more concerned about racing McLeish and Haley, but of course, if McInnes lets Haley by, which he did here, McLeish will now lose time in theory when Haley passes him in turn one, so it should even out.
Well, that's if you can get up to him in time. He's slowly closing in. Now the slipstream starts to take effect much more rapidly. Catches the car of Tim McLeish, slides down low. Outbrakes him, but as you said, loses all kinds of time as McInnes closes in, swings out wide, and returns just about to where their gap was before.
The last round of prototype stops the start, and Bill Scott Corbin coming in from 10th place.
The lead now from Tinsey down to 2.6 seconds back to Costa. And it was not traffic that time. It was just pace. Same thing with Jeffrey Ooms. That gap down to 2.8 seconds back to Paquin.
5 minutes left on the clock. I think it's safe to say that we've at least got two leaders that are desperately trying to be light with their right foot.
Tinsey does not pit.
Ticks off yet another lap.
5 minutes left on the clock. That's not good news for any driver short on fuel, because that means in 3 laps he'll hit the line with 30 seconds left on the clock, so this race will run at least a minute into overtime.
There we see our champion, Robert Tinsey for Talon Motorsports. Costa, I believe, running a privateer, not going to be on a team this season. And as we listen to the engine of Tinsey, it sounds like he's short shifting.
Cundiner into the pits. 4 minutes left to go.
He's got a splash and dash, and he's out.
Pitted on the exact same lap as Tinsey.
I think Tinsey's been saving a lot more, though.
I think you burn less when you spend half your race disconnected.
Not sure how that works, but
Okay.
we'll find out. We'll ask him afterwards. It looked at the start of this race like Tinsley was going to romp away with things yet again. Then we got a bit of a scare with an internet connection. If you're just joining us here on the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge, he climbed his way back forward.
He's going around again.
Yeah, we weren't sure if he could catch Alex Simonik. Figured they were both on the same pit strategy, and then it became between themselves and Lauro Costa. Simonik was the one that lost his internet connection and fell away. Tinsley inherited the lead. And now it's a giant question mark. Can Tinsley nurse it home? Is Costa going to win in the prototype at his first time of asking?
Costa just gets underneath Ryan Bird now. Nobody between him and Tinsley. The gap 1.7. Tinsley has to work on Ross Booth.
Jeffrey Ooms stayed out on track.
That gap is staying about steady, though, I would say. About 2 seconds between Paquin and Ooms.
Sean Rees announcing he's coming in, so even drivers running multiple laps down, just struggling to make it to the end right now without trying to have to pit.
Costa down to 1.3 seconds.
Brandon Garcia now in between them as they work through the bus stop.
Also, Haley is losing time. That gap has gone down to 2.7 between himself and Gerard.
Maybe he didn't take enough fuel.
Or he's got damage on his front. That'll lead up your fuel a little quicker as well. Two laps to go. If Tinsley stays out next time, he is committed.
Tinsley got a huge break with traffic as Costa had to negotiate around Meyer and Reese.
Mark Schindel from third place. He comes in. Makes me wonder if Mike Young is going to pit. He's currently in fourth. Could inherit this position.
Ooms is in. Here he comes.
Couldn't make it. And by the way, Schindel is out well ahead of Young, so he's not under threat.
I don't think Young's coming in. He pitted at the same time as Costa. He's on a two-stop strategy. So now it's all Tinsley. The gap is up to 2.6 seconds now. Almost makes me wonder when the gap increased that Tinsley thinks he knows he can't get there. No use saving fuel if you know. No use going slow if you know you can't get there without a stop. We'll see how it plays out.
By the way, Paquin and Darling overtook Ooms. He enters back in third place, well ahead of Ryan Bird.
Well, the moment of truth is coming up right here as Tinsley exits NASCAR 4.
Stay out there, Bob.
Oh,
no! Is he fooling us? No, he's coming in.
And so's Costa.
No, he's playing with us. Laura, shame on you.
Oh, Bob the Blade, unfortunately, not able to ply his trade in a way that can help him today. Lauro Costa flashes his light as the white flag comes out, knowing he has this thing won if he could just take it home.
If he does this, he wins the exact same way he's won all the other ones. Fast and able to save gas.
Oh, and Tinsley coming out of the pit lane has spun. Did he touch anything, though? Let's look at the replay. I think he managed to keep the car clean, but he's lost a ton of time, and Schindel is on his tail. My goodness, what twists and turns this season has begun with.
Even Carter Condon are in the pits in the closing moments, but have a feeling Checkered is about to fly.
It is indeed coming out this next time by the line. Costa out of that final actual corner. There's NASCAR 3 and 4 to go, but he's flat out from here to the line. Boy, the Banana has the lightest right foot of anybody we've ever seen here on this series. Somebody call Scott Dixon because his job is under threat. Lauro Costa is going to win here in round 1 at Daytona. As the fireworks come out, I believe, is Paquin up next? Yes,
Paquin's
he is.
on the oval.
Paquin was away for a while, but it's like he never left. The GTLM class has got a new dominant force, 7 seconds ahead of the next car. As he comes through the bus stop chicane, past the fireworks, you can see them through the diffuser of that Ferrari. Through NASCAR 3 and 4 he goes. Now up to the tri-oval. No such fuel issues for John Paquin. The Indiana driver is going to return in dominant form and takes the win here.
Bradley Haley continues to lead GTD. Last year in this class, it was a matter of who would win each race. Would it be Haley or would it be Costa? Well, now they found a way for both of them to be able to pull it off on the same day, if he can. We have noticed Haley has been a bit slow over the last couple of laps, and Gerard has been reeling him in. But if Haley can just go a couple hundred yards more, he'll take the win over Gerard, just a few seconds behind, and then Hackerson, and it looks like he's going to be able to do it. Bradley Haley comes across the tri-oval and wins in GTD. Gerard second, Hackerson third. I confess I don't know who will get fourth in class because Savratic spun on the last lap. I think he was out of fuel.
Looks like Rossi is going to be able to hand that, but unfortunately, he wasn't close enough to get the podium. And actually, Garassi, is he going slow as well? Or is he might be finished with his race. We'll figure it out later. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results, as well as driver interviews, and all the upcoming races here on GSRC will be on screen. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We just watched round 1 of season 6 for the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. In the end, Lauro Costa made the switch as smoothly as you could ask for, going from the GT3s up to the prototypes, and takes the win. As no surprise for fans of Costa know, he took it with fuel strategy. Robert Tinsley still eked it home in second, but a spin put it under threat later on in that final lap, with Mark Schindel running him down to within a second at the line. Schindel rounds out our podium. Mike Young comes home in fourth. A great first run for the rookie here in this season. John Ulmer, unfortunately, stays true to his history with luck and just was at the wrong place and the wrong time. He did recover to a top 5 at the least. Carter Kundinger, a few late race mistakes, puts him into 6th, but still respectable for him coming from those GT1s last season. Daniel Gralti has to wonder what could have been. He was all the way up into the lead at one point, but he finishes in 7th. Then you go to 8th, and it's Mark Wilson, Steve Jones, newcomer here to the prototypes and the series. He finishes 9th. Rounding out the top 10 is going to be Scott Corbin, and then Chris Pence, after a 500-mile race yesterday, must have been a little bit tired. He is going to be the last of the cars who are still running in the prototypes at the line in 11th overall. Bill?
Going to jump around on the overlay a little bit. The top 5 drivers all finished in front of the GT3s. John Paquin brings it home with the win, kind of what we expected. Paul Darling gets second. Now, Jeffrey Ohms got third, but remember, he nosed the car into the wall, had to take a long pit stop, had to take an extra pit stop, still came home third. I think that says a lot for what he has in store for some of the fast drivers in this class as the season progresses. Ryan Bird gets 4th in class, and then Billy Smith, able to get that fast repair, comes home in 5th. And then I'll jump all the way down to the driver in 20th. Jimbo Pfeiffer gets 6th in class. Sam?
Yeah, then we get to the GTD leaders here with Bradley Haley taking a win ahead of Jason Gerard and Benjamin Hackerson. All 3 of them were running close throughout the duration of the race, but Haley ended up with the checkered flag. Dennis Savatek actually was able to hold on to 4th. We have a feeling our timing and scoring was thrown a curveball because Guarcia, we believe, finished the race perhaps an extra lap down to the class leader, and that's why he is being ranked as 5th. Alright, so Ross Booth was 6th in class, and you're also going to see the GTLM and some prototype drivers here who had trouble today, such as Dale Green and John King come up. We have the GTDs of Paul Lindsay, Tim McLeish and Jim McInnes in Ferraris inside the top 10, as well as Sheldon Rosenbaum's Mercedes. And Brian Bennett Saudi, he had a big spin late on in the going, which cost him a few positions. Scott McGarvey, and then we really get to the drivers who had trouble. Miguel Myers, GTLM car all the way back here, as well as Sheldon Woloshin and Matt Owens in GTD, Christopher Sherburn and Jeff Hooper in GTLM, Stephen McGarvey, Lionel Duprat, David Tejeda, Alex Simonik, Robert Sklenka, Dave Hill, Kevin Santana, Sean Reese, Marty Jeffries, Robert Jackman, John O'Day, Dino Topic, Armando Edwards and Leif Peterson all had days to forget. But there are some drivers who will very fondly remember today, Joe, and that we have a few of them here with us in our interview booth.
Indeed, first up is our overall winner, Lauro Costa, the big banana, comes over to the HPDs with a splash. And Lauro, were you aware of the fuel issues going in? I'm assuming that's a big yes.
Hey guys, good evening. Yeah, first thing, I was with fuel problems because I had damage on the nose of the car, so I didn't make all the laps I wanted to make. And I was really just fighting P10, P9, so I had no idea what was going on at the front. I realized what was going on with the fuel on the other cars by the end of the second stint, when I saw that I was close enough to Tinsey and everyone else, and they seem to be trying to save fuel and going slower than me. They are much faster than me normally, so I realized something was going on there. And then I led one lap. That meant I was the last HPD to stop on the second pit stop. At that point, I realized I was in the race for the win.
Talk to us a little bit about your qualifying. Is that something that you personally struggle with a lot? We saw a lot of times you didn't grab the pole over in the GT3 cars, and you were way down the order this time.
Well, I was not really prepared for this race. I removed. I had a surgery last Friday, and I was resting on the weekend, and then I never drove the HPD in the last 2 years. So in Praxi, I was trying to learn how to set up the car, and in qualifying, I was testing a third spring setting. I was like reading the explanation and trying to see how to make it work. So I was qualifying with full fuel and testing setups. So the qualifying was not meaningful. I think I had pace to qualify on top 5. That's the realistic pace I have in this class.
Now, you won the GT3 crown last season. Are you setting your sights already on the prototype crown for season 6?
Well, the goal of the season was to win in this class because I won GT1 in my first race. I had wins in GT3, so I just wanted to have wins in all the classes. And that happened really early. I was not counting on this win. I'm sure a lot of luck played part on this win, but I'm taking it. Sorry. So I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the season. When time zones change, I probably will need to retire from the league because the races will be too late for me. So I will just try to enjoy the first couple of races until the time zone changes. So if I can get more podiums, I'll be happy with that.
Well, it sounds like a goal to me. It'll be sad that you won't be able to fight for the whole season, but again, congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much. Happy to talk to you guys one more time.
Happy to talk to you as well. That was Lauro Costa, our winner, and I believe we have our third place finisher over in the GTLM class that Bill is going to talk to. Jeff Ooms has rocked up to the booth.
Jeff, I didn't think you had enough fuel to get to the end. I think you knew you didn't have enough fuel to get to the end. Was there any chances of doing it on that long last stint?
Maybe if I knew about it a little bit sooner. I was just kind of right when I nosed it in. I was trying to do some math in my head, but I can't do math very well, right. So I was just kind of guessing at it. But I ended up only being 1 lap short, which is really surprising.
Well, even if you had saved fuel, your pace would have probably been slow enough. Even you could have two-stopped it. I think Paquin would have got you, and maybe even Darling. Nevertheless, you got to be happy to be in the hunt, be able to run with. I don't know if you're familiar with the Pac-Man John Paquin, but he's pretty quick, and you were able to run with him early.
I've kind of heard about him just from people talking about him in the league, but I've never actually raced with him, so I don't actually know his pace there. But yeah, that's good to hear that it was quick, and I was actually just trying to save fuel behind him. And then I stuck my nose in a couple times just to see if I could get it easy pass, but he was holding on to it pretty tight there. And then, my whole plan was just to save some fuel behind him, and then I ended up, Ulmer came up behind me. Going into turn 1, and I looked in the rear view for just a split second, and that took my concentration away from my brake point, and then I was just way too hot into turn 1 there. And if I would have just went straight, I would have smashed right into John, so I just put it right into the tires, and unfortunately, Ulmer ran into me there. So I apologize to him already, but that's kind of what happened there.
Yeah, well, let me give you some advice, because I've been watching and calling this series for a long time. Ulmer, bad luck follows him around, so when you see him coming in the rearview mirrors, be careful, because sometimes he'll find it, and sometimes you're part of it. Poor guy, he has the worst luck out there. I heard you talking to him afterwards. He said, that's just part of racing. That was kind of nice of him, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. That's really good of him, and we'll have plenty more races here, and I'm sure we'll pass each other. He'll pass me more than I'll pass him, but we'll come together a lot more here.
I'll get you out of here on this one. The Ferrari versus the Ford, was it always the Ferrari for you?
I think so, yeah. I tried them both when they first came out, and I found that I was maybe a couple tenths faster in the Ferrari all the time, and then now that I've actually spent a lot more time with it, it's hard for me to go back, but if I actually spent time with the Ford, I might be about even, so it's kind of hard to say, really.
Well, good luck to you. I'm glad to see you in here at the beginning of the season. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll follow you as you go along.
Thank you very much. We'll see you guys later.
Jeffrey Ohms, third place finisher today. Joe?
We also have our winner in the GTD getting himself off on the right foot. It's Bradley Haley, and Sam's going to talk to him.
Yes, Bradley Haley. First off, congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
I was saying, all season long last year in the GTD class, it was you and Costa winning every other race. Now you finally worked out a way to both do it.
Yeah, I saw that there at the end. I look forward to watching the broadcast, see what happened.
Well, what happened is an interesting strategy battle between you, Gerard, and Hackerson all race long, but of course you capitalized on that final stop. Was that the plan all along, to try and stretch your fuel so you didn't have to pit as long at the end there?
Yeah, I had done some practice, and I had a fuel mileage per lap I had to hit, and I was hitting it pretty good there for a while, and I was able to save and take a lesson from Lauro from last year.
Now, obviously, Lauro's not in the class anymore, but we got some new strong competition. Jason Gerard, of course, notably moving over to the class, and Benjamin Hackerson, he's always a threat when he comes here. Who do you have your eyes on as far as the early championship scenario is concerned?
Well, it'd have to be Gerard. When he said he was moving to GT3, it kind of took my breath away, because I know he's fast. And then leading up to practice, it was always, we were within a couple tenths of each other every practice session we were in. And then, Ben shows up, and kind of same thing with last year, the way that he was last year, very, very fast. And then he kind of did give us made me think a little bit as what his fuel strategy was when he popped out in front of me when I came out of that first stop.
All right, last question we've got for you here tonight. What's on the hood of your car?
That is my wife, my son Ridley, and my daughter Anara. And I wanted to put it on the car and just tell them thanks for being my sponsor and supporting me as I spend an hour or two away from the family.
And it's always got to make you race a bit safer when you know your family is riding on the front of a machine.
Yep, that's for sure.
All right, well, congratulations on your win again, Bradley. We look forward to seeing if you can do the same at Mosport.
All right, guys. Take care. Thanks a lot.
That was our winner in the GTDs. We do have our winner in the GTLM who's come to join us now that he's gotten his celebrations out of the way. John Paquin returns as we remember him. John, glad to have you back, and congratulations on a emphatic victory.
Oh, thank you, guys. Good to be back. Nice to be in a Ferrari finally.
That does not surprise me at all. Now, we were talking a little bit about Jeffrey Ohms, who seemed to have the pace with you at the start of the race before he ran into trouble. Do you think he's going to be a concern for you the rest of the season?
Oh, yeah, he was fast, wasn't he? Like I said, in the race, you've heard me say this before at Daytona, I set it up with a really loose setup, anticipating only taking rear tires, and that brought the balance back. So the first stint that I ran, I was a little off pace because I was a little loose, and him being that close to me, having to worry about him so much, made me even looser, I think. So it was quite an adventure. But now he's fast. He's going to be fast, I think.
There was a lot of traffic out there today, a big field taking part in this first round, and we anticipate a lot of them will carry over to round 2, which is going to be at a very different track. Mosport notorious for being difficult for overtaking with lap traffic. Are you at all concerned about that going to a much shorter track?
No, actually, Mosport's one of my best tracks for some reason. I'm usually a big track guy, but there's something about that place where I get around it pretty well. So I'll be looking forward to Mosport. Although with this car, I'm not quite as stuck, or I'm not quite as comfortable as I am in the GT3 cars. So I'll really have to pay more attention. I'm definitely susceptible to a mistake there in this car, I think.
One last question for you. Are you setting your sights on the crown, or is this a Nico Rosberg approach, race at a time?
Oh, race at a time, man. I mean, just try to enjoy it and have some fun with it. That's the most important thing here.
All right. Well, welcome back. And again, congratulations. That was John Paquin, our winner in the GTLM class today here at Daytona. Of course, we want to thank a few people before we go. A big thank you to the Autobahn Motorcar Group for sponsoring this series for every season that it has existed. And of course, thank you to John Ulmer and his team who do a lot of work behind the scenes to try and make this thing happen. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde who provide the music for our broadcast. Their contacts can be found listed here as well. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Sam, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, or we're on Facebook at just Global Sim Racing Channel, no spaces in there. The next race, as I mentioned, that is going to be up in Canada, they'll be at Mosport. That'll be Monday, October 9th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. That's 2 weeks from today. We also have upcoming races for other series on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.